Let's jump right into this explainer by setting a scene that, honestly, you probably know a little too well. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, and it's Sunday evening. It's that specific kind of Sunday that already feels kind of heavy, right? Almost like it's borrowing stress from the week ahead. You pick up your phone, take a deep breath, and you open your banking app for the first time in almost a month. Now, on paper, you're doing fine. Your situation isn't catastrophic, you aren't drowning in debt, the rent is paid, and hey, there's food in the fridge. By every visible logical measure, you're completely okay. But as you start scrolling up through those dozens of transactions, you feel this weird sensation you can't quite put a name to. It's this quiet, low-grade shame just humming in the background. You start seeing restaurants you barely even remember visiting, random subscriptions you totally forgot existed, and just a ton of tiny, seemingly reasonable purchases that suddenly feel like evidence. Evidence that maybe you're careless, that you aren't the organized, intentional person you really thought you were. So what do? Boom, you abruptly close the app. It's a classic move. It is literally the modern digital equivalent of putting a bill face down on the counter just so you don't have to look at it. Well, if any part of that Sunday evening dread hits a little too close to home, I want to challenge you directly right now. You are actually not bad with money. Seriously. It's not a budgeting problem. And it is definitely not a discipline problem. You aren't lacking some magical self-control gene that everyone else seems to have. What you're actually missing is a crucial, much quieter element: intimacy. Now, I know that word probably sounds a little weird in a financial context. We usually save intimacy for people, for romantic relationships, for the soft, emotional parts of our lives. But if we redefine it, intimacy is really just about the depth of knowing. It's about understanding something so incredibly well that it stops being an anxiety-inducing mystery and actually starts being a functional relationship. The author of our source material points out that most of us have just never had that with our money. What we've had is avoidance. We've had anxiety. We've done that thing where we binge financial advice and then make these guilt-fueled spreadsheets that last, maybe 4 days. What we haven't done is practice the powerful daily act of simply looking at our money without running away. To really grasp the cost of this avoidance, let's talk about a really funny but super poignant story the author shares. There was this restaurant right near her office, and by her own admission, the food was genuinely awful. Just terrible. And yet she walked in almost every single day and handed over her money. Why? Because it was close, because it was easy, because she was just on autopilot. Then, one day, a coworker casually mentions, with a bit of a laugh, that the owner of this terrible restaurant had just bought a brand new Porsche, and it was funded entirely by their daily convenience spending. Wow. She stopped going the very next day, not to punish herself, but because she finally had this massive awakening. That sudden realization led to one singular, incredibly powerful question. Who am I making rich and why? Think about it. Every single dollar you spend unconsciously is going somewhere to build someone else's life, someone else's business, someone else's dream. The author realized she was literally contributing to the wealth of a restaurant she didn't even enjoy. When you spend your money on autopilot, you're building someone else's empire, not yours. Flipping that script requires a completely different way of thinking about personal finance. If we look at traditional budgeting apps, they're entirely automated. They're super algorithm heavy, they focus entirely on strict discipline, and they categorize everything strictly by merchants. They do all the work while you just blindly scroll past it, which honestly just fuels that endless cycle of guilt and avoidance. Realizing this, the author shifted to what we can call the intentional system. This approach is manual. It's calculator-driven. It's entirely focused on building that intimacy we talked about. And most surprisingly, it's based on your feelings. Relying on an app to tell you what you did wrong last month completely misses the mark. Instead, this manual, feeling-based approach makes you an active participant in your financial life today. So how does this new system actually work in real life? Well, it involves the highly specific, deeply unglamorous mechanics of simply looking. You log into your bank account every single morning, not because you're stressed about a bill or waiting for a paycheck to clear, but just to be present with your money. You keep physical receipts. You write down what you bought, where you bought it, and crucially, why you bought it before the memory fades. And then, and this is key, you add up your weekly totals by hand. No app, no fancy formula, just you, a calculator, and the quiet discomfort of sitting with every single number you chose to spend. It forces you to sit with that awkwardness until the numbers stop feeling like a terrible verdict on your character and just become what they really are: mere information. And here is the absolute core of the practice. When you write these things down, instead of budgeting by strict, boring categories like entertainment or groceries, you color code every single purchase based entirely on how it made you feel. Did this bring me joy? Was it necessary? Is it worth reviewing? Is it simply a leak in my finances? Or is it an investment? You're actually categorizing your money through the lens of your real human experience instead of some arbitrary spreadsheet column. By embracing this slow, patient act of manual tracking, you start to uncover things that an algorithm could literally never catch. For example, the author figured out that most of her impulse purchases happened specifically on Thursday evenings. Why? Because she was tired, she was feeling slightly lonely, and she was highly susceptible to the easy comfort of just adding things to a digital cart. She found an 11-month-old subscription she'd totally forgotten about. She discovered she spent heavily on convenience food whenever she felt overwhelmed at work. Ordering takeout was just the easiest decision to make in a day full of hard ones. A budget app just sees the category food, but manual intimacy, it sees work overwhelm. That is a game changer.
So, the absolute best part about this is the timeline. You aren't doing some massive, restrictive life overhaul. You're not putting yourself on a punishing financial diet. Instead, you just follow a simple monthly rhythm. You log your spending daily, calculate your totals weekly by hand, find your emotional triggers using those color-coded categories, and then you make one quiet, deliberate decision to cut just one thing a month. That's it. Just one thing that doesn't serve you. By the end of the year, 12 useless things are gone, and suddenly, almost like magic, you have money left over to save or invest, money that is finally truly yours.
Out of this profound personal shift, the author went on to build a specific framework, the Intentional Money Journal, along with the mini course. It completely moves away from cold formulas. It covers calculating net worth, building money intimacy, tracking, cutting those emotional leaks, and pulling the 5 levers of wealth. It is designed from the ground up to teach you not just what to do with your numbers, but how to actually feel at home in your own financial life. The author leaves us with this incredibly empowering sign-off. If you are someone who earns enough to be fine, but you still feel like money is constantly slipping through your fingers, hear this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply a person who has never been taught how to look. And looking is exactly where everything begins. You have the power to, as she so perfectly puts it, be the best thing that has ever happened to your money. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The answer to your financial stress isn't more discipline, and it certainly isn't a better software algorithm. It is the small, daily, totally unglamorous act of showing up for your money until it stops feeling like something that's happening to you and starts feeling like something you are actively building. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop closing the app in shame and start building your own empire instead of someone else's? Take a breath, open the app tomorrow morning, and just start looking.